For the past few years, the BBC has been reporting on the child sacrifice that's taking place in Uganda. And what I would like to explore with you in this brief video is that child sacrifice and the myth of redemptive violence. Walter Wink really coined the phrase redemptive violence in his book, The Powers That Be. And what he ends up saying is that the myth of redemptive violence leads us to believe that violence can be an efficient way of solving our problems and also of bringing about prosperity. And this seems to be what's happening in Uganda. Uganda is a nation that is modernizing very quickly. And so there are tensions within Uganda of the old way of doing things and the modern way of doing things. And in the capital that's modernizing very quickly, you have very wealthy people who are looking for children who are outside of the capital in villages to sacrifice, to give to witch doctors in order to sacrifice. So they'll pay witch doctors a certain amount of money in order to sacrifice children with the belief that this sacrifice is going to bring about prosperity for them. It will bring about more money. This is clearly the myth of redemptive violence, as Wink is pointing out. And it seems as though many of the people in Uganda are under the spell. The wealthy are obviously under the spell, who are trying to find children to sacrifice. And the witch doctors are under the spell. But it also looks as though something's happening with the police, because the police know about it. The BBC has told them. And the families who these children are being sacrificed have told them. And so the police aren't doing anything about it. And so whether they're being paid off by the witch doctors or the wealthy people or whomever, or they actually believe that this is good for their country, we don't really know. But the police aren't being helpful at all. In fact, the people who are being helpful and who are trying to change this are the priests and the pastors. Why would this be the case? Well, Christians believe that there is something salvific about the life and death and resurrection of Jesus. And what partly they mean by that is that you no longer have to believe in the myth of redemptive violence. You no longer have to believe that violence is an efficient way of bringing about prosperity or of appeasing the gods or of bringing reconciliation by finding a common enemy to unite against. You no longer have to believe this, and you shouldn't believe it. Jesus tries to transform this myth of redemptive violence into the truth about love and compassion, tries to build community through a different way, through love and compassion for our fellow human beings. And Jesus takes on the cross at the end of his life. Humans kill and sacrifice Jesus. And what does Jesus do in return? Offers forgiveness. In Jesus' resurrection stories, he offers peace to those who crucified him. What Jesus is doing here is offering a new way of life that has nothing to do with the myth of redemptive violence, has nothing to do with revenge. And so every time we go back to this myth of violence, we're going back to the old way of life. Jesus offers a new way of life based on love and compassion. And so what does this mean? Priests are going to try to stop child sacrifice because they know that it's false. It's based on the myth of redemptive violence. What does this mean for you and me? In our lives at home, in family, in our lives at work, in our lives at the grocery store, there are often times when people push our buttons. And what do we spend our time doing? Oftentimes we want to push back, trying to find ways of getting revenge, either verbally, physically, or whatever. When we do this, we show that we are under the myth of redemptive violence. We are living in the old way. We're not living in the new resurrected life that Jesus provides for us, which is the life of love and compassion. So it's easy for us to point the fingers in Uganda, but we are also living under the myth of redemptive violence too. And until we transform into the resurrected life of Jesus that offers peace to those who betray us, we're still living under the myth of redemptive violence. So those are my thoughts, and I would love to hear what you think. Take care.